So in the last video of this little mini-series that I've been dragging on for about 2 weeks now, we covered the Supra, E46 M3, E39 M5, Integra Type R, and EM1 Civic Si. For this video, we'll be covering the final 5 cars that I have compiled for this little list, and again, mind you, as I stated in the last video, this was supposed to be a full 20-minute long video, but I lost time to edit it, so I just cut it in half, and now here we are. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the last bit of this series. We have one more Honda on this list, and this one is often considered to be one of the best modern roadsters of all time, the Honda S2000. The Honda S2000 has garnered a reputation that has earned it respect from even the most bitter of Honda haters. Introduced in 1999, the S2000 struck hard from the get-go, displaying a very modern contemporary design that still looks good to this day. But it isn't just the good looks that has earned this car its reputation. The S2000 comes equipped with the F20C, later F22C in the US market. This engine's charm was the fact that it revved up to 9,000 RPM.
9,000 into third, that's what I call an engine.
And 8,200 for the F22C. The S2000 made all of its power up high in the rev range, peaking at 8,300 RPM. While some people complained about this, hence why Honda added the USDM F22C, others see this as a challenge of engagement, seeing as you had to work and really wring out the engine in order to extract every bit of power it had. Many people, myself included, view this as an added fun factor. The S2000 also held the record for highest specific output. The more powerful JDM version produced 247 horsepower and 123 horsepower per liter. This record was held for 10 years until the Ferrari 458 came along. Think about that for a second. A Honda held the record for highest specific output, and it took 10 years and a Ferrari to knock it off. The engine, of course, was not this car's only selling point. The S2000 was extremely nimble and possessed a balanced handling demeanor. The car's handling has been compared to cars such as the Lotus Elise. With a good set of tires, this is one of the best backroad cars you can get your hands on. The smooth but direct feel of the 6-speed transmission was also praised. All this sounds well and good, but the S2000 is slowly starting to climb in price. There was never really a time that you could find yourself a nice stock example for under $18,000. Most of the nicer samples sit between about $20,000 and $30,000. Low mileage and rare examples like the CR will put you into the $40,000 range easily. A CR sold for $44,000 on Bring a Trailer, and a 1,000 mile example sold for $48,000. So if you want to get yourself a nice S2000 for a reasonable price, your time seems a bit limited. While we're on the subject of roadsters, the next car we have on this list is, of course, the NA MX-5. I'm sure most of you watching this already know the story of how the Miata came to be, but if you don't, I'll sum it up for you. Back in the 1960s and 70s, small British roadsters were all the rage among sports car enthusiasts, especially GIs that were stationed over in Europe for long periods of time. They would buy them while they were in Europe and have them shipped back home when they came back to the United States. This was back when you were allowed to just do that. Try that today, you'll probably end up in prison. As fun as these cars were, they really weren't known for their reliability. And when it rained, it really wasn't unusual to find that the entire English Channel had been dumped into your car's interior. Due to this and a number of other reasons, by the late 1980s, small roadsters really weren't a thing anymore. Options are very limited, and most of them were too expensive and still unreliable. So, some execs at Mazda sought out to change that, thus the Miata was born. It delivered all the fun and essence of classic British roadsters while still being reliable and without a leaky top. The Miata was pretty much an instant hit, so much that dealers were marking them up thousands over sticker price because they couldn't supply the demand. The initial impression of the Miata was its sleek, retro-inspired, yet still modern and curvy design that was heavily inspired by the Lotus Elan. However, the Miata was more than just a good-looking roadster. It was highly praised for its precise maneuverability, balanced handling demeanor, all routed through its sharp steering feel, all while riding on a fully independent suspension. The NA6 Miata produced about 116 horsepower, and the NA8 produced about 128 horsepower. The Miata is by no means a fast car. It was never meant to be. Although the new 181 horsepower ND, I hear that thing moves. The Miata was always meant to deliver a dynamic and pleasurable driving experience, and considering the fact that it's still considered one of the go-to sports cars among enthusiasts to this day, I'd say it delivered on that pretty well. Right now, NA Miatas are more or less about as cheap as they're gonna get. You can find yourself a clean example with moderate mileage for about $5,000 to $8,000, and you can find yourself higher mileage yet still good condition models for well under $5,000. However, there have been some spikes lately. Granted, I cannot find the article anywhere for some reason. It's been wiped off the face of the internet. A British Racing Green version recently sold on eBay for about $28,000, and I believe it had under 1,000 miles. Two more clean BRGs recently sold and bring a trailer, one with 2,000 miles for $18,000 and other with 10,000 miles for $17,000. Again, you can still find yourself a really nice one for under $8,000. It's the lower mileage ones that are selling in the $10,000 to $20,000 range at this moment in time. But for how popular this car is, I think the prices are only going to go up in the years to come. The special editions such as the 92 Sunburst, 91 BRG, which I happen to own, the 93 Special Edition, M Editions, etc., those are the ones that are going to be shooting up first, and when it happens, they're going to shoot up fast. So you still have plenty of time to get a nice Miata for a cheap price, but keep in mind it won't last forever. The next car we have on this list is another sports car from Mazda, but with a slightly different take on it, the FD RX-7. Like the Supra, the RX-7 is one of the four pillars of 90s JDM goodness. The unique twist as opposed to its competition though is its twin-turbo 13V rotary engine. The FD was quite a unique car in the 90s, sporting a design language that was ahead of its time, not to mention it was a huge departure from the previous generation FC RX-7. The rotary was Mazda's baby for the longest time, and its main selling point was delivering smooth, high-revving performance in a small, lightweight package with less moving parts and mechanical operation than a traditional piston engine, making them relatively simple. However, the rotary is said to have some issues in the reliability department. And while the rotary definitely has some flaws, a lot of RX-7 owners will call BS on that and will say as long as they're maintained correctly, they'll be about as reliable as any other turbo engine. The FD is by far the rarest example of the RX-7 production line. About 68,000 of them were produced, and while that's not a small number, that's a lot of cars. It's quite a drop-off from the 272,000 FCs and 471,000 FBs. It doesn't help America's case the fact that even though the FD was produced until 2002, the last year the USDM got it was 1995. In previous years, you could find a nice FD within the $20,000 range or so, but more recently prices have been shooting up as this car is becoming increasingly rare to find in stock form. One might blame the popularity of LS swapping them, which, let's be real here, turns them into a C5 Corvette. An average lower mileage RX-7 will go somewhere between the $25,000 and $35,000 range. The highest bid on Bring a Trailer went for $49,000. Give it a little time and I think we'll be seeing them going for that price on a regular basis. And I have a prediction of what might happen within the FD market at some point. As I mentioned, many FDs have had the rotary engine swapped out for an LS of sorts. But now that stock models are increasing in price and becoming more sought after, I think we'll be seeing a lot of LS FDs that are for sale bought as flip projects and reverted back into rotaries and then resold for a higher profit. That just seems like a logical thing to happen to me in a world where these JDM cars are becoming rarer and more desired in their stock form. I think by the early 2020s we'll be seeing FDs regularly going within the $60,000 range. The next car on this list is personally one of my favorite models of this car's history, the Mustang SVT Cobra, aka the Terminator. The Terminator is very much known to be one of the most badass and vicious Mustangs to ever be spawned, and he was quite a step away from the rest of the SN95 model line, which has a reputation of more or less being a bit underwhelming. The Terminator is powered by the 4.6-liter modular V8 with a Eaton Root-style supercharger slapped on it, producing 390 horsepower. So they say. Many people have said that Ford really underrated this engine and that it's actually making somewhere north of 400 horsepower, which I don't find the least bit shocking. Unlike a lot of other performance cars that earn their rep through the track and driving reviews, the Terminator's reputation was pretty much exclusively garnered on the street. If you've seen any street racing videos from the mid-2000s, you've probably seen the Cobra blow the doors off of something. Videos of the Terminator doing flybys, burnouts, and mowing down anything and everything on the street, all to the song of its supercharger pulley, were pretty much all over the place. And back in 2003, this was probably the best bang for your buck performance car you were gonna get. And people were immediately made aware that this car was a force to be reckoned with. If you had a Cobra back in 03 or 04, you were basically unstoppable. Its would-be main rivals, the then outgoing Camaro and Trans Am, really couldn't hold a candle to it. With all that being said, the Terminator is definitely a Mustang that will be remembered as one of the all-time greats. You'll generally find Cobras in the high $20,000 to mid $30,000 range, but some examples will easily slip into the $40,000 range. And with there already not being a huge number of Terminators produced, and a lot of them being crashed and fitted with modifications like live axle conversions, and then being crashed, Cobra prices are really only destined to go up, especially for models with rare color options like Mistachrome. Okay, lastly, you all saw this one coming. Let's be honest, you really can't talk about increasing car values without including this car, the Nissan 240SX. So you all know the deal with 240s. They're one of the most popular cars in the drifting world, and this has led to a few issues when it comes to buying them. You see, drifting is a sport in which you speed towards a wall going anywhere between 30 and 60 miles an hour, You yank the e-brake or clutch kick, whatever you choose, and you try to slide past said wall. Sometimes things tend to go wrong, and 8 times out of 10, the result is hitting said wall. And 8 times out of 10, the car that has hit the wall in question is a 240SX. Kinda seeing where I'm going with this. As I said, they're one of the most popular cars in drifting, and it's become literally impossible nowadays to find one that hasn't been molested in some shape, way, or form. I would say that upwards of 80% of 240s in existence have been modded in some way. This creates yet another issue when trying to buy them, called drift tax. And what that is because it is so hard to find unmolested ones, people will charge upwards of like 10k for 240s that have been beat to shit. Because they know someone will pay that premium just to have a 240. The 240SX is a fantastic car and has definitely lived up to its reputation over the years. But the market is currently a shitstorm. And one day, there will be an extremely limited number of stock 240s left. And those stock examples are going to be up there in price. By no means am I trying to throw shade at anyone that drifts 240SXs. I myself plan one day to get a 240SX and not really help that cause. But that's a story for another day. I couldn't really find any sales figures on Bring a Trailer. There was no chart for some reason. And most of the 240s on there were actually fairly priced for what they were offering. Auto Trader was a bit of a different story. Most examples have been modded and are offered for over $10,000. Craigslist is, well, you know. So if you're looking for a clean 240SX for a decent price, 1, definitely check out Bring a Trailer. That seems to have the top of the barrel S chassis. 2, act fast. There won't be many left soon. 3, good luck. So that's pretty much it for this video. What do you guys think of these predictions? Do you think that's what the market's going to look like for these cars in about 10 years or so? Anything you think I should have included on this list that I missed? Let me know down below. And as I said before in a couple videos and posts, I've really been struggling with my upload schedule as of late. I'm going to try to get back into doing at least 2 videos a week, a video like this and some other kind of video. Whatever pops into my head for that week, I guess. Definitely leave me some suggestions for these kind of videos. I'm always open to more ideas, especially since sometimes I find myself in creative ruts with these kinds of videos. Yeah, other than that, I will see you guys next week. Have an awesome day.